Tonight will be a historic one for New London High School's Kris Dunn, who might go as high as number 3 in the NBA draft. And when that happens, it'll make New London High School the only Connecticut high school with a player in Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA, joining New London's Rajay Davis of the Cleveland Indians and Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins. Some people, however, aren't even sure if Dunn is the best player in New London high school history. And if you watch that clip on theday.com, you know that I argued it was Tyson Wheeler. But if we're going to find out really who the best is, we should go to the pro. And with that, we're going to bring in our guest, senior at Connecticut College and a former teammate of Kris Dunn's on the 27-0 number 1 ranked New London High School basketball team, Doug Henton. And Doug, welcome to KC and the Sports Doc.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
So you grew up in New London.
Correct.
Played basketball growing up. When you were doing that, who were the people you were looking up to that you wanted to emulate as a basketball player?
Yeah, so personally, I'd say growing up, I probably started playing basketball seriously, I guess you can say, around 8 years old. During that time, I'd say, I believe it was the 2006 New London High School Whalers with Kareem Brown, Lee Mitchell, Aaron Bryant, Mike Morgan, so on and so forth. So those were the guys I was looking up to because those were actually the guys who I got to see play at the time. And in addition to that, they were also state champions, you know, and that's something that I always wanted to become. But you had mentioned Tyson Wheeler, and just me, from a younger perspective, I've never seen Tyson play. Still to this day, I've actually never really seen Tyson play in his prime, I guess you can say. And with that being said, I feel like Tyson Wheeler was more so this myth, this standard that every New London kid should be held to. And pretty much what that standard was, work hard as possible and become great in whatever you do, become great in your craft.
Is that myth real on the courts? Is that myth of somebody like Tyson Wheeler real on the courts down at Toby May? You know, at the Martin Center, when you kids are all growing up together, when it's you and Kris and some of your other teammates, is that real? Yeah,
I wouldn't actually say it was like a myth. I can more so say it's a mentality. It's a mentality. Everyone on the court, everyone on the football field, everyone on the baseball field wants to be the best. Wants to be the best. They want to reach their potential, possibly.
So there you are, 8-year-old Doug Henton, one of the best basketball players in New London.
So they say.
And along comes this kid from Virginia, this kid Kris Dunn. What was the feeling? You remember the first time you met him?
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Kris. Well, I actually don't think that Kris and I introduced ourselves because, you know, we were in competitive mode right after his basketball game. But I believe that, so Kris actually played New London Rec basketball that was ran by Tommy Majors at the New London Recreation Department. And Kris was on the Tar Heels, I believe. Kris was on the Tar Heels. He was about 9 years old, I believe, when he first came. And long story short, the kid was good. The kid had talent. No one really knew who he was, but everyone had their eyes on the kid.
Did you know at that age, could you see something special in him that he was probably a little bit different? Did all the kids see that?
Yeah, well, see, one thing about Kris is, you know, everyone likes the story. You know, I'm going to use Anthony Davis as an example. Anthony Davis was about 5'11" in high school. He sprouted to be this 6'11" monster. One thing about Kris is he's always been better than everybody else. He's always, you know, had the talent. He's always had the potential. Are we talking about NBA here? I don't really know if anybody's talking about NBA in their younger lives. Well, at least looking at it as an actual possibility because it's such a far-fetched, it's such a dream. But at the end of the day, Kris has always had what it took.
What was the first game you remember where Kris Dunn stepped up and showed himself to be one of those special ball players?
Yeah. So reflecting back all the way in my 9-year-old days, so we had from the New London Rec Department, the best players would get picked and we would be called the All-Star team, and we would play at the Waterford Neil Hollick tournament. It was a huge deal to us back then. You know, it was so competitive. But so before Kris came, I made the All-Star team. It was a bunch of me and my friends, and this is before Kris came. We played the Swamp Monsters. I remember it to this day, a team from North Stonington. We got killed.
Hey.
First time and only time a team from North Stonington has ever beaten a team from New London.
Inside joke there.
But yeah, we had gotten crushed, you know, and this was our All-Star team. This was the best of the best from New London. Long story short, Kris comes the very next year. We breeze through the All-Star tournament or whatever you want to call it. And we actually run into the Swamp Monsters who we end up returning the favor to, just ×2, ×3, times Kris.
NBA draft, very special night. You know, talk about the pride that your teammates and you feel from high school and still carry with you. I mean, you're all part of that.
Yeah,
do you
100%.
feel like you're all part of that whole uplifting experience?
Well, you know what it is. At the end of the day, Kris is a friend of ours, and seeing him do well makes us want to do well. Seeing him do well makes us happy. And at the end of the day, like I said, the kid is my friend. I'm always happy to see that any one of my friends are doing well, whether that person is going to the NBA, the NFL, or even working a part-time job at McDonald's. If that individual is doing well, I'm happy for that individual, and I can speak on behalf of many individuals in New London.
So I'm a New London guy as well, and we always talk about it's a New London thing, you wouldn't understand. But there is something to be said about the community that is New London. So that New London community is going to be on display tomorrow night. Where are you watching the NBA draft?
Yeah, so I'll be at the NBA draft myself, and I'll be right there cheering my guy on. Yes, myself including, I can't even count the amount of kids on both of my hands. There's actually going to be a New London community in New York taking New York by storm.
Casey, you going to be there tomorrow night?
I'm not going to be there tomorrow night, but you can come right down here to Philomena's restaurant tomorrow night because there's a draft party right here at Philomena's for Kris Dunn and the NBA draft. Now, of course, Philomena's Mike Bassetto, that's a different kind of community and somebody 100%. That has influenced you. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Mike Bassetto, where do I even begin with Mike Bassetto, or Mr. Bassetto is what I call him. Long story short, I was an individual. I had no idea what was going on for myself, and I kid you not, I was in the middle of being accepted into Connecticut College or working a part-time job at a fast food restaurant. And, and it seemed like that fast food restaurant was going to be the path that I was going to be taking because I was accepted to Connecticut College, didn't have enough money to pay for it. Bam, that was it. Long story short, here comes Mr. Bassetto offering out his hand, and I think that's what it's all about, just in the New London community in general. A lot of us are unfortunate, and I wouldn't say that's our fault or whatever the case may be. A lot of us just, lack the help or lack the individuals in our corner. And Mr. Bassetto, just one of the many very nice guys in the New London community, reached out to me, and I'm fortunate enough to.
Night of the NBA draft, one of your best friends is going to be probably, hands down a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
If you could reach out to some of those kids right now, like Toby May at the Martin Center, playing New London basketball, or even at some, some of the junior highs, what would your message be to some of those kids?
Look at Kris Dunn off the court. Everyone knows who Kris Dunn is on the court. Everybody knows that he's this crafty player who's going to the NBA. But look at this individual who could have went to the NBA. If you ask me, he could have went to the NBA a long time ago. He decided to stay, get an education that way so he can set a perfect example for his 2 younger sisters and all of the other kids in New London community, because let's be real, we might not see another professional athlete come through New London in a while. Hey, what's next? The books. That's exactly what's next, and Kris just proved that's true. So.
One more question about Kris, the basketball player. What made him a special teammate?
Just who he is as an individual. The kid, I kid you not, the kid hasn't changed one bit. He walks into the locker room, the loudest kid ever, so goofy, just a bundle of joy. And you have to love that, because at the end of the day, if you're having a bad day, here comes Kris walking in, all goofy. If you're having a serious day, here comes Kris walking in all goofy. And, you have no other choice but to love that, because that's just great company around you.
Charismatic energy.
Oh, yeah, to the max, yeah. And one thing, that's another thing. An individual asked me, he said, hey, if Kris wasn't going to the NBA, what would he be doing? I said, I have no idea, but the kid would definitely be on TV.
Well, you can watch the NBA draft. Come on down to Philomena's, because not all of us can be Doug Henton going to New York and watching it live. You always wondered who those guys were?
He's
right
one
here.
Of them.
He's
yeah,
one of
he's
them right
one
there.
Of them, yeah.
So thank you to Doug Henton. Good luck in your
guys.
senior year at
Thank
Conn
you, guys.
College.
I appreciate it.
And
Thank you very much.
Maybe we'll be seeing more of Doug Henton come fall.